What's up everybody, another beautiful day on the Dragon Isles, and today I'll be covering everything you need to know about the pure Elementalist build for Enhancement, and how to slap the most in M+. Now the recent build guide I made showcased a version of this build with Fire Nova instead, but this time we're going for the Frost Shock slaps. So the upside of this build compared to the Fire Nova build is that it does a lot more damage on single target as well as low target cleave or priority targets. It does however have a slightly lower AoE ceiling compared to Fire Nova, but as long as you're not continuously pulling packs with 20 plus mobs, Frost Shock slaps will win in most cases. And like I said, on bosses it really blasts and has a lot less downtime due to, well, having more stuff to press, and well, Fire Nova is only good when there's multiple targets, since you get so much Maelstrom generation if you have multiple Fire Nova detonations, which in turn spawns more Wolfies due to CDR, but on single target it's a bit of a sad button because it does no damage and you get 1 Maelstrom, whereas Frost Shock does about 10 times the amount of damage it does when you have procs up, and you also get Maelstrom. So with that said, let's take a look at the dungeon build. Now just like with the Fire Nova Elementalist build, you'll spec into all the Lava Lash talents, Molten Assault, Hot Hand, Ashen Catalyst, and Lashing Flames. You of course also get Primordial Wave with Primal Maelstrom and Splintered Elements, so Prime Wave caps out our Maelstrom and we gain 10% haste per extra lightning bolt generated, which is just an insane amount of haste, up to 60% for 12 seconds. I mean, it's alright. You of course also get all the Maelstrom talents in the middle of the tree, Improved Raging and Overflowing Maelstrom, as well as Crash Lightning, Crashing Storms, and Sunder for more AoE pad. And then you get Feral Spirits with Witch Doctor's Ancestry, 2-second Feral Spirit CDR per Maelstrom gained. Now if procs be on your side throughout the dungeon, you'll pretty much have your Wolfies up at your side at all time, at least on AoE. Then we of course get Elemental Spirits, so our poppers do more elemental damage, or they increase our elemental damage rather, so Frost, Nature, Fire. And we also get 1 point in elemental weapons, Storm's Wrath and Elemental Blast. Lastly, we get Ice Strikes, Hailstorm, and Swirling Maelstrom. So Ice Strikes deals a decent amount of damage by itself, but it also triggers Crash Lightning AoE, but more importantly, it increases the damage of your next Frost Shock by 100%. And Hailstorm just happens to increase Frost Shock damage 15% per Maelstrom spent on an ability, up to 10. So a modest 250% damage increase to Frost Shocks when you have spent 10 Maelstrom and have Ice Strike buff up. Did I mention that Hailstorm also increases targets hit by Frost Shock per Maelstrom spent up to 5 extra targets? So yeah, when you have procs up and you fire off a 100k Frost Shock crit on 5 targets, it's pretty satisfying. Now if we could only get 100% crit. And as far as our wolves go, well, if you get the Frosty Wolves, then the Frost Shocks do even more damage, and if you get Flamey Wolves, well, all your Flame Shocks and Lava Lashes will slap extra hard. And if you get the Nature Lightning Wolfies, your Chain Lightning, Crash Lightning, and things like that will slap even harder. And possibly all your Primordial Wave Lightning Bolts if the RNG gods are on your side. It is very satisfying when you go into a pack and you pop your Wolfies, you get double Nature on them, and then you slap away 6 Lightning Bolts. Now, as far as our class tree goes, I'll have a cookie cutter build, if you will, linked in the description below together with the enhancement builds. But the cookie cutter one has the big things like Ancestral Guidance, which is an absolute beast in dungeons, being able to heal an extreme amount on demand, especially if you combine it with things like 6 target Lightning Bolt slap from Primordial Wave. Then you have Incap Totem, Purge, Thunderstorm with Thunder Shock for more control and stopping power for packs. Learn to use it often, and your group will love you. It is absolutely insane to be able to knock up multiple mobs on a 25-second cooldown. Now this build can of course be altered depending on key or content. Need Poison Cleanse Totem? You get Poison Cleanse Totem. But it does require you to think for yourself. I mean, I could link a build for every single dungeon, I guess. So how does this build play out as far as rotation goes? Well, Enhancement is still a spec with a fairly unpredictable rotation filled with ifs and buts. And I greatly recommend trying out the rotational addon Hekili, which is a priority add-on, if you will. Shows you what you should be pressing next to maximize your damage, so it's great for learning new builds and getting used to the chaotic nature of enhancement rotations. But here's a basic prior order for AoE. You want to spread Flame Shock with Lava Lash if you have less than 6 targets with it. Lightning Bolt if you have 10 stacks of Maelstrom with the Primordial Wave buff up. Preferably 6 targets with Flame Shock so you get these 60% extra haste. Plus it slaps. Chain Lightning if you're at 10 Maelstrom. Crash Lightning if the buff isn't active. Ice Strikes, then Frost Shock with Hailstorm buff, which you get from spending Maelstrom. Lava Lash targets without Lashing Flame debuff to increase their damage taken from your Flame Shocks. Crash Lightning if Chain Lightning has buffed it. Sundering, Lava Lash, Elemental Blast with 5 stacks of Maelstrom and any of your Wolfies up. Storm Strike, Frost Shock, Flame Shock, and pretty much Feral Spirits on cooldown, which is, I mean, you just press it all the time. Sounds easy enough, right? However, in a lot of cases, it is ever-changing due to procs and Maelstrom generation. You can be at 2 stacks of Maelstrom and plan to Lava Lash your very next global, but boom, you capped Maelstrom from nowhere, and you should now Chain Lightning instead. And due to that, your Ice Strikes is now off cooldown, so you should press that instead, which also means your Frost Shock is now empowered by both Ice Strikes and Hailstorm, so you better fire off that thing. And during those 2 globals, well, guess what? You capped Maelstrom again, and Lava Lash is just watching you from the corner. But hopefully you get my point. So taking a opener, for example, if you go into a pack of mobs, my setup is usually pop Wolfies and Flame Shock into a Lava Lash to spread it, followed by Primordial Wave, which I'll throw on any target that currently doesn't have Flame Shock on it, and then fire off Lightning Bolts on everything. Follow this with Crash Lightning, Ice Strikes, and Frost Shock into a Sunder into the above rotation. Doing so gets most of your heavy duty stuff off cooldown, and you get up to 60% haste from Prime Wave. And it does a metric ton of bursty damage when you're done. Now, using the same build and swapping over to single target for those pesky bosses, you want a Feral Spirits on cooldown, Lava Lash if Hot Hand is active, or if you have 6 or more stacks of Ashen Catalyst, which is the Lava Lash damage increase you get from Flame Shocks. Lightning Bolt if you're at 10 stacks with Primordial Wave buff, unless you're saving it for some certain add spawn or mechanic. Elemental Blast if you're at 5 stacks with any Wolfies up, or if you're about to hit 2 charges on it. Ice Strikes, Frost Shock with Hailstorm buff, Lava Lash if Flame Shock is about to run out, Elemental Blast if you're at 5 stacks of Maelstrom, Lightning Bolt if you're at 10 stacks and have only 1 charge of Elemental Blast, or you just recently fired off an Elemental Blast. Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Frost Shock, Flame Shock. And yeah, like I said, if it is a boss that spawns adds, and depending on when it does so, you want to save Primordial Wave for that, so you can hit additional targets, get a bigger haste buff, which fuels your single target boss damage by a ton. Take the second boss in as a revolt. Waiting for the Draconic Image add to spawn means you not only burst down that add fast, but you also get 20% haste rather than 10. Or on the last boss in there, you can wait for the Fracture Crystals to spawn, for example, to again burst down multiple crystals and get more haste and boss damage out of it. I gotta use the old brain, Rudy. Now, moving over to our stat weights instead, you want as much mastery as possible, followed by haste, then crit, and lastly verse, somewhere down there at the bottom. Now, take this with a grain of salt. It is good to aim for these stat weights, but you should always sim yourself, especially with the Droptimizer on raid bots, to see what upgrades are actually good for you. I happen to have a metric ton of haste on my gear currently, so crit sims higher for me due to the gear I have at the moment. But once that haste gets reduced, other things go up. So yeah, sim yourself. Now, as far as enchants, gems, and consumables goes, you want mastery on rings, Sophic Devotion or Writ on your weapons, Waking stats on your chest, Fiery Armor Kit on your leggies, and 1 skillful illimited diamond gem. Then fill the rest with keen Neltharites in any other socket. Remember that you can have up to 3 sockets on your neck, so make sure to get that. And if you're running the crafted lariat neck, keep in mind that it procs off the lowest stat on your elemental gem currently. So if you're running keen Neltharite, it will actually proc haste and not mastery, which is fine for most cases, but do sim yourself and see if heavy haste low mastery gems would be better. Now for files, M+, either Glacial Fury or Elemental Chaos. You could go for Tepid Versatility instead. It is slightly worse, but it costs a bit less and you do take a bit less damage, so it can be good for M+ for that reason alone. Now for potions, you want Elemental Potion of Power or Ultimate Power. Food, you want Fancy Feast, Fortune Cookie, or Sizzling See Good Medley. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this build guide for the Frost Shocky Slapping Elementalist Enhancement Shaman. Hope it helps you out with your keys. Hope you're able to burst down all the packs. Now for my UI, I will link my default UI code. You can import it in edit mode, as well as most of the main Weakauras I use for enhancement. Sadly, I cannot share all of my Weakauras nor my Plater settings, as I have gotten them from subbing to now on Twitch. So I'm not gonna give out his work without his say-so. And I'm fairly sure his say-so would be no. So go sub. But yeah, let me know what you think of this enhancement build and if you tried it in dungeons. Now, if you have any questions at all, hit me up here or become a patron or Twitch sub and get access to the Stankie Gaming Discord, which is the fastest way to get a hold of me. It's also filled with a lot of useful info and helpful people if you need any help PvE-wise, raiding, classes, etc, etc. Now, don't forget the usual stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, ring that dang notification bell. We gotta best that YouTube algo. Now, I'm also streaming all my progression raiding on Twitch, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, Stankie Gaming. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Stormstank!
Sågel, så fuck's sake!